He turned that out already.
He turned it out already. Okay. Let's get started. We do have a lot to cover today, and we have a couple people at limited time today. Limited time, but have hard stops today, but they have to move on by listening. Welcome to our meeting. Welcome to our February meeting, and happy Valentine's Day to everybody. Thank you. This is for the benefit of everyone in the room. We just go around the table and say who we are and why we're here. And Carol, can we start with you at the end of the table?
Carol Magnum, committee member.
Diane Gerhardt, committee member.
Carrie Tuckett, Jeff Lyons, convener.
Lisa Bezo Allen, city council member.
Todd Henderson, Vice President, Warner Baseball, here to do an update for you.
Diane Morale, accessibility coordinator for the city.
And before we move past me, Maggie, can we go over to you?
Yeah. Maggie McCall, and here in the
Daryl Moss, the ACOM for Queen Street.
I'm Rick Calvini. I'm with the ACOM as well, and I'm here to talk about Queen Street.
And I'm still Don McConnell. I'm in charge of the accessibility committee.
Frank Bowler, committee member.
Derek Lavelli, site chair and co-chair of the AAC.
Stephanie Perrin with the second permit. Sierra,
And Peter, we know that you're there. We can see. Good stuff. Has everybody had a chance to see the minutes from our last meeting? Any questions, concerns, additions, comments? Can we have a mover then? And a seconder? Derek to move and a seconder in the form of?
Okay.
Diana, thank you. All those in favor of approving the minutes of our last meeting? Aye. Thank you very much. We do have a declaration of a conflict of interest. It's Jordan. I should explain that our guests from Mariner Baseball today are in discussions with FedNor about a possible grant, and Jordan does do work for FedNor, so he was kind enough to send in an email explaining that to us, that he would have a conflict on these. In the meantime, he's not able to attend, I think.
When he's free, he'll log on again.
Oh, he will log on.
Connect if he can, yeah.
Okay. So moving, does anyone else have a declaration with regards to a conflict of interest? Again, that would be a financial benefit to either you or an immediate member of your family as a result of it. And right, very much. We do have two different special guests with us today. First of all, we have Pat Henderson from Mariner Baseball on Sinclair Field. I don't think I've heard this, but Sinclair Field. Feel free to correct me. So Pat, I understand you have a brief presentation. If you want to just go right ahead. And how did you feel if people interrupted you with questions?
Really, that was easier for me. I think it's better when I free flow with my students.
Okay.
To kind of set things. So if you have any questions at any time, I'm going to keep this off and
Thanks very much. Thanks for the overview.
So February 14th, I guess it's kind of a special day for Valentine's Day. But for people that enjoy baseball, today is the opening day for spring training. So the catchers and the pitchers are heading to Florida or Arizona or wherever to start making their way to try out for their Major League Baseball team. So for us baseball guys, this is kind of, we're getting started now. Sioux Minor baseball has been active all through the winter, getting ready for the season and stuff, but this is a big day for sports fans for the lake baseball there. Kind of cool that I get to speak on it, the virtual treat. Okay, so on my first page here, it's got Sinclair Yard. So yeah, some people think Strathclair, we're behind it a little bit, so we're just kind of off to the top on Blackbeard Road. And we have, and if you look at our sign there, Sinclair Yards, there's 7 corn stalks on there. Okay, that represents the 7 baseball fields. Also, this field was built in the 1990s when Field of Dreams was built. So the guys back then, and part of our community back then was pretty influenced by that, and I think that's what became with our. Now, Sioux Minor, we've been on this site since 1993. So like but baseball in Sault Ste. Marie has come back into the 70s. So it's been around for a long time. We used to play on the elementary school field, and then this complex was built. We have a license of occupation, the city of Sault Ste. Marie. So the city doesn't actually run the fields, it's run by a bunch of volunteers. So we have our own budget, we get our money from our sponsors and from our, our players like to pay for. So that's kind of how we run the field. Okay, yeah, so we have volunteers and we rely heavily on our partners. Our community partners, sometimes things get done at that field, and we don't know how, like, that it's done. So like, the fence needs to be fixed, it gets fixed, or field needs to have some more soil put on, it gets done. It's done by our volunteers. Or happened at a baseball winter pitching machine that we broke the lever on it, and somehow the next day it was fixed, right? So they just find ways to get things. However, our field was built in 1983, so our washrooms and everything are 1983 washrooms. So that's kind of what we kind of got going. Now, city council. So back on Labor Day, we had a big baseball tournament. We sponsored. We had 2 provincial tournaments going on. We had 20 to 22 teams come in from town, and Ontario Baseball was here. And they were looking, we have a really nice facility, but they were really interested in us expanding to Challenger Baseball. So Challenger Baseball, we need to have our upgrades to our facilities. So we set up so city council kind of passed a resolution that allowed us to start putting this committee together.
And just to further explain, Challenger Baseball is an adapted form of baseball for people with various different disabilities, and it's a really incredible sport in that it partners people with disabilities with people without disabilities that play together. So 2 people can at times play together as one person together. So it's a really, really incredible sport.
Yeah, so that's but our fields are made of it's a clay type of base field, so we need to have a structure type of field. So that's kind of the thing. But we also do not have walkways to get to the fields. Like we have a walkway that runs through the middle of the field, but we don't have it going directly through the field. So we have some stuff that we have to try to work on there. So.
And if you saw the presentation that I did send out, the very last page has an aerial view of the fields, and you can see, I think they're orange on there if you were able to see them. Those are areas where the paths are missing, and that's some of the things that they'd like to have upgraded.
So when we look at so this presentation, this presentation was kind of put together based on what's going to be talked to the council on February 20th. So on February 20th, we're going to meet and kind of give an update to council on how far we've made. So we've met probably 4 or 5 times as a committee, and then my subcommittee also met 4 or 5 times together. So to get to this stage right now, so we're moving along, but the enhancements that we need. So we have a vision. We have our parking spaces in our parking lot right now. We have 8 that are designated for handicap accessible parking, but the parking lot is a steep grade, it's recycled pavement. So it's really bumpy. We want to pave that, have 8 8 parking spaces that are with a class A type of paving. Our walkway is, it's about 9 feet from the in-place wide. And then, but yeah, you can't really get to the field from there. And then finally, to our options, we have to, we've been playing with different ideas. We have a male and female option, but not really handicap accessible. So we're looking at building a separate washroom, what was like beside of it, which was a meeting room, but we're going to convert that into a universal washroom, which has enough room to have adult change table fit in there nicely along with anything else that we need in there. So we are, that's kind of like phase 1, is that we want to be able to get everybody to our fields, park to our fields and have washroom facility. That's phase 1. Phase 2 would be, we have to convert either one of our whole fields to, we can get people onto them, or that we look at building a separate field off behind us. There is a whole bunch of space that's still St. Clair property that's not being used for anything right now, but it's definitely, the fields down there, the fields were donated by the St. Clair family, but it had to have a usage of, like has to be a sporting or recreational type of usage. So that's why we have a soccer field, soccer field, there are baseball fields down there. But there's a whole, and also our courts, well, it's also, so like we have all these different, but we have a whole bunch of room back there where we could actually build a second or third, first or second baseball field back there. So we haven't kind of got to that step yet. We're still at the stage where we would we just want to get the parking lot, the walkways, and the washrooms kind of set. That kind of gets us to $100,000 probably, with just takes a little changes that we're looking at. So we've got a budget in that range. Now for us, we have an operating budget of $250,000 a year, and that pretty well goes into running the complex, whether it's our summer students or baseballs or like we cut the grass, we maintain the fields, we put the chalking down. That's all done by the volunteers for our summer students. So we don't really have like much leeway and room as far as putting in $100,000 project. So that's where we're going to go and look for grants and stuff to do that. Which is, I think, also I'll be looking for maybe we can do letters of recommendation to
Support.
Okay, so I'd be looking for a support letter. That would be useful for us to go. So like next step from today, like on February 20th, like every Brentland is going to report to council to like this finding. And then the next step after that is we're going to do our funding for
Tourism.
yes, thanks, Dan. Diane's been at every meeting, by the way. She's been a great resource for us, but yeah, so we're gonna, because I guess we need, and we're kind of like we're not really that much of a veteran as far as going and applying for money, so, but apparently we need seed money to get started, so I think we're going to the tourism department to ask for that. That'll be February 20th will be with City Hall, and then right after that we'll be going to the Ministry or
Tourism and doing an application.
Yeah.
So there is a fund right now, through the capital grant through Ontario Children's Foundation.
Yes, June March 3rd.
Due March 6th, but because if your budget is $100,000 or more, you must have audited financial.
So I think we're working on our T2s right now.
Yeah, this is required if there was your budget. Anyone who is above 100,000, you must have.
And to clarify, that wouldn't be your operating budget. Right? That would be a grant. But
No, if your operating budget is 100,000 or more, you must have audited to. Your operating budget is below $100,000, you don't, it can just be through your books. It can be like a statement, or like your CRA, achieve 3110. But if you're 100,000. You should say you're operating.
You have a 200.
Oh, operating, oh, okay, yeah.
You have, okay, so that's gonna be something that we'll have to.
And then, yeah, the deadline is March, so.
What prompted me is when I saw that the point of shame grant that they received from, I think it was mentioned in your minutes back in.
Respectability.
Because that's exactly what point of shame received, and that is exactly what we're looking for, at least for the first step of our project there. Looking to, from what I can gather from that point of shame grant there, that they need parking, they're gonna get parking spaces, walkway. So those are exactly the three things that we were looking for. Now, our building itself is smaller, that we don't, like I said, the building codes perspective, we don't necessarily need to have all the things, but we're gonna try to do it in big, because it's basically both a practice, so we're gonna try to, we want to put in everything that we can in our new washroom that we're gonna have built. So, yeah, I don't think things that it's something we've been working towards anyway, but it's something that that'll probably hold us up with our duty diligence. So how we can drop off, and so some of those other funding areas, do they have slavery money?
So you'd have to take a look at first what is the requirement in terms of financial statements, because that can be sort of the first. Like I recommend that, is look at what the financial statement requirements are before you even start investing.
We're very, we're pretty well winging on our own for the most part there. We do have our budget each year and according to our committee, and I wish I had my treasurer with me right now, but I'm pretty sure that it's going out. We have a bookkeeper that they have something that they do where they kind of check off on it, but it wouldn't get paid.
So if the event just went through, just ask for 90,000, then you wouldn't have to do
Well,
it.
it's your operating budget, it's your organizational budget,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So that would be, yeah, that would send and wait a little bit for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
the other 10.
And that's the Troy one, like whether that's your, if we go to, where goes the last page there for? Yeah, so there's our field complex right there. So when you, from the right of the field, our parking lot, the two red lines there represent 4 parking spaces on either side of the pathway. Then the first next 3 red lines, our A field is the first one on the right, and that right now is the field that's most designed our dugout. We have concrete dugouts, and those concrete dugouts on A field are wider than the dugouts on the other fields that we do. So we initially, when we had initial thoughts about it, we were going with the A field as the way to go. But our big challenge for that is the fact that all the fields are being used from Monday to Sunday from like 5 until dark, during the summer. So we can't really take one of those fields offline during our playing time. Our playing time is also that building time. So like that is a bit of a challenge for us, but we built a field on above A field on the top there. There's a whole bunch of property available up there that's part of the St. Clair farm, and you know that's a possibility. But we're not really there yet. We want to just get those red lines that we have up there that line us up to each of the field here. That's kind of the goal in that. And if you in the middle of the field there, you'll see that there's a structure. It's just in the middle, in between the first field one below and the second field below.
It's the square, the dark square with the red line. Yes.
Okay, so that red line represents we have to widen our pathway there also. It has to be 8 feet. That has to be, so we'll be putting a concrete walkway 8 feet there. And those are the 3 doors for our washrooms, the men's, women's, and then the one on the end will be the universal washroom there will be. And that's the one we're going to build. Right now, that's a meeting room that we have.
And just to be clear too, the Sioux Minor Baseball wants to go above and beyond what is required by building code. Building code does not require any changes to the structure if they're not being changed. But, they want to go above and beyond, especially with the intent of being able to bring challenger baseball, to be a reality in the city. So it was important to them to have the expanded washroom and the space for the adult change people as well.
So I understand this correctly, the building itself is not going to,
No,
there's an existing meeting room there.
that's correct.
Perfect.
Yeah, so yeah, we're gonna stay with the same structure itself and with the same footprint. And use that, the meeting that's there.
Have you ever had anybody go there with a disability to give you some suggestions?
Diane,
Myself, but not someone with vision loss. I'd like to do a site visit, Carol.
That's what I was thinking, because I've been there back in the nineties, early 200s, okay? And yeah, I'd like to kind of check this out, to give you what I think, like suggestions or whatever. You might have already thought of them, I don't know. You know, but just to see what.
well, I can tell you that our like, how we identify our washroom, you wouldn't be able to tell, because we don't have the rail. That is on it. So there, I would think that we could use you there to help us with any of those, if we have a number of, like on my committee, we have like retired construction owners and we have some planners that are on there, but we could use, or anybody here, that would be willing to come down and take a look at a facility to give us suggestions. We're open to doing that.
Okay. So maybe what we'll do, as soon as a little bit of snow that we have, it's gone and it's not muddy, I'll send out a date, we can arrange some transportation, and whoever would like to go, we can go and do a site visit.
Yeah, like I don't mind the tour guide, but now that I'm retired, well, I'm happy to do that. Now, maybe going back to the second.
Another 5 that.
Okay, okay, we can. So our, what's the whole package? So essentially, we're not looking for any money from the city, and I don't have any money for my own operating budget. So that's what I've got to work with in order to make this project fly. So, that's, that's where we're gonna be looking at, and we're gonna learn, I guess, about what we need, and we have to be able to provide for our, for potential people that might for anything there. When we listed the different grants there, it was just some of the research that we had done, a lot of it reading your minutes, like I went through your minutes for the last 3 years there and looking at where recommending doing talking about where there's some any type of potential funding opportunities there. The Jays grant is also something that the Blue Jays, they have a, they're very big on the Challenger at baseball. And where this came from, like this originated based on a conversation. We had a member from Florida Baseball helping us with our tournament on the big weekend where we brought in 22 teams from out of town. And it was the 9 and 13 new provincial tournaments, of which we won both the 9 and the 13. So we were pretty pumped, and our 11-year-old went off to Hamilton, and they also won. So it was the first time for minor baseball that we won in 9, 11, 13. So we brought 3 banners home, but Ontario baseball representative was up here, and he was talking to the mayor, and that's where they started talking about Challenger baseball, and then that's kind of how this kind of got going. There, we had a chance to, like, they said, okay, well, council wants to meet with about minor baseball. So what can we do with it? What can we do in order to make this happen? So there was a resolution passed in November for us to meet with the city, which we have done on February 20th. I think Frank Henry will report back to city council on what we've done so far. So we have a budget, we have a plan, and the plan can be adjusted based on feedback we get from anybody in the community that wants to give us some ideas. And whether we get this done next year or the year after, we want to get this infrastructure put in place. And then we're going to see if we can offer Challenger baseball, which I believe is only only done in Thunder Bay right now, when I'm looking at the different locations that are offering that program. Thunder Bay is the only Northern Ontario community that, has a calendar baseball committee, and so we'd like to be able to sort of pick it back. We have 600 participants right now in our programs. We have, I believe, 5 rep teams. We'll have 4 select teams, which is kind of like an all-star House League team, and we have our House League players. We also have an open league where they play, so that's in 18 years and above. So we pretty well take care of 5 to 50, like for baseball that's interested, but we do not offer a calendar program. But this is all when
Question, I just wanted to let you know, I actually wanted to know what you guys would do when you're actually doing the building for the washrooms and stuff. How would you do how would you run your program while the renovation is going on?
So the one good thing about the washroom is that it's a meeting room right now, so we can just decommission the meeting room and that washroom can be built. The parking lot part of it, I think that could be done over a weekend and we wouldn't really lose any of our parking spaces. The pathway, that would be a little bit more challenging, but we would, whether we do it in the fall, like after Labor Day, we have fall ball, which only one of our fields is being used, and 2 college uses that, the fields, all that same field, so we can do a lot of the work around them that time. So I think we can do it. As far as now converting a full field, that would be whether we build a new one on the property that's adjacent to us, or whether we convert one of our, that would be a challenge for us and the hospital track. Good question. Yes.
One quick thought, I realize it's quick for time. My theory is that there might be more potential grant money for a new field rather than the. Then I've not gone through the documentation, but I'm just wondering the state care and other of those potential sponsors. Most things, equipment manufacturing, mine, Rollins, Bolden.
Diamond, right now we have, I don't know if you've ever been down to our field, but we have a giant baseball down there. And we have diamond written on it, and they send us, I think, close to $1,500 worth of baseball with us putting their name. So yeah, we have like, that's awesome. We have, along our fencing, we have where you can advertise along our outfield fences and things. So there's some stuff where we try to generate some, but I was down in Windsor, my son lives down in Windsor, so I'm down there visiting, and they have a miracle field that's it's on just off over that. The city of Windsor put in about $400,000 and built a field complex there with they have a nice it's kind of a multi-complex, but it's they have a small baseball field, they have a medium-sized baseball field that's grass, and then they have a large baseball field that's grass. But the smaller baseball field is on artificial type of turf. And they just put that, and I was taking pictures down there of all the people that funded them. So like the federal government funded them with some money, and so there is a number of different sponsors out there that you can access.
That's just a thought that might be sometimes it's easier.
Yes, and I know like there'd be for us, we could use another field or two. So like there would be like momentum from our own committee and our main committee that not only would it be easier for us because we could run all of our programs and then build a field on the side on the top there. So I think that would be our preferred one, but the cheaper method would be a field being converted to from a plate or to a artificial turf. But that would take us a few months.
And the challenge might be a few years.
So we one, yes.
Important, on experience, a few years to establish one program, like the skiing, the water skiing. We have some sport activities in the district for, but they've taken time to build. you wouldn't wanna, frankly, you wouldn't wanna take field out of circulation. If you weren't using, you gotta use utilization, yeah, because you end up with.
Yeah, so,
I bet I'll be here for a couple.
well, but we can balance, it, like, that's something we would need to balance there for sure, but, and, but that is something that we're kind of wrestling with.
I get what you said about this is phase one. Phase one, it includes some safe parking, it includes some walkways. It includes renovating the existing building. That's about $100,000. What else is required beyond that in order to get to the football county?
You need, on the easiest one would be converting one of our fields by putting artificial turf on it, like just the infield. If Terry Fox Field in Sudbury has, they took the used, when they renovated, what was it, from those?
Yeah, Rogers.
Rogers Center. So they managed to get a whole bunch of the used artificial turf there, and they put, Terry Fox Field. Now, Sudbury gave up to St. Marie a roll of that, and we used it to, make our batting cage. So if you go down there, you can see a brand new batting cage down there with artificial turf, which was from Sudbury, from Toronto via that. So we find little ways to make things happen, and, like, I think
You don't have a budget for that.
there's no budget for this program. When I'm running this is on a zero budget. I
No,
don't,
but what I'm wondering is an estimated cost.
we haven't gone that far. No, we only got to the $100,000 for the first phase, which would be the three that I talked about. The next one, that's the big one, because that's where we go with converting a field or building a new field. I think at our last meeting with the city, I did propose that if we could, because we have it's not a lease that we have with the city, but it's a license to, occupy. So we were looking to expand our license to occupy the farther back of the field there on the parking lot. What I'm told, there's nobody has any up their eye on the grade now for anything, and it's been empty for 50 or 100 years. So like it's been, nothing's been developed there. And we have a couple of things on our current license where we have like part of our responsibility is part of the road that not really our road, like it's part of the gravel road that brings people in from Blackbird Road into that. So we have to make some adjustments to our license anyway, but we're in discussion and we voted the idea.
The reason I was asking, just and not, in order to move along here, don't worry, folks, we're gonna move along here. Everybody will be in where they need to be at the right time, but it may be difficult to go to some of the funding agencies for a small amount of money and then go back to the same funding agency to respond. So when you're talking to the math, that's not, it's just gonna hurt us if we go back 3 years.
Right. That's okay. I mean, my vision was wherever we got the money from Point de Shane, that would be the one I would go after. Get our infrastructure stuff and then go with the care grant with phase care with the next part of the next part. Yes, like that was. Like when we started looking at the scope of this, that it was getting, I mean, it was beyond time larger than our operating day-to-day budget there. So like I was like, okay, we're gonna need help, but we want to do it. We're trying to do it without with what we have.
Well, the kids have a lot of money, we didn't plan on, so.
Absolutely, they've given money to a number, like, but it's in the 100. And it depends what we're end up doing, but we're at the first phase of, because everybody benefits from this first phase. Like everybody got more complex benefits and access to our fans and like my mom's 90 years old now and like just getting her to come and watch what I'm doing out there. Like I think now, because we did do some changes to our stands on our main field, and now we can't even get to the end of our pathway because part of it is now no longer there because you just cleaned it up. So like just the first phase, everybody done. Okay, and then the second phase, and we could get to the part where everybody benefits in the second phase too, because when Challenger K-12 not playing, and we can use those fields for some of our other teams.
But even for our administrator, you need to have formal planning. So I recommend before you start considering, that, yeah, you need to make sure that you have. I don't believe in these policies, you can have these sometimes. But I think that's kind of where before you put all the work into drafting it.
Like, I mean, I've been on this very tight schedule, like, meet today,
Yeah.
February 20th with the city, and then on March 6th, and that would be the first grant window for that, but we're like, in learning stuff all the way along here, so like, this is something. We're just taking those small steps at a time, so like, I'd like to get it done. This year, but whether we get it done in 2 or 3 or 4 years, but for learning, people want to school about it, we have to err on the state. That's been on our, it's been on our.
Well, two questions. First question is, does anybody else have a question?
Actually, just a comment. Just be aware, like, if you're putting electric doors into, your washrooms, you might wanna, like, even if the door needs to be repaired. So when you first put them in, allow yourself enough time to get the door in town, get the contractor set up to do the door work, and also just make sure that you have everything, all your ducks in a row before you say, okay, the doors need to be wheelchair accessible. There's also different types of switches that some people can use it with their feet or arms. Some people can't. You might want to put an emergency button just in case somebody falls and they can't get up.
Yeah, that's part of the code now, Eric.
Yeah, no, I'm just allow for those hiccups, because if you don't, and then something goes wrong, then you're sitting there and to allow for your ordering of even the bathroom fixture for wheelchair, for accessibility is outrageous.
Well, one of the advantages I have on my committee, I have Graham Newman, who is, he's actually in the Hall of Fame for Sports Hall of Fame as a builder. And he's come with some really creative solutions, and Mark Russo also, gets on him, but he's also been helping with like, I'm definitely not the constructor guy, but I have some really strong, people in me that, definitely will do that. At the WSIB where I used to work, our washroom was converted, where we had the emergency switch, with the adult change table and, all the, and stuff, so a little bit experience on watching that happen, but as far as making everything work when we need to have it work is, definitely something.
And you look for the part of what Graham also really nice.
Graham is really good.
Well, Diane. That would be you. We talked about this earlier, we felt maybe it's likely going to support this project. And Diane has drafted resolution. Funds from the variable. All of it. And we did a move on it. Derek is going to move that and Carrie will second that. Perfect, thank you very much. All in favor? Terrific. So we're going to kind of concentrate this. The act of approval of the expenditure of those funds comes from the state council. What we're doing is we have a reserve account, the money is then for use on a city project. Outside of our scope, but not much. But it would go in the form. And those funds would only be.
Well, for sure. First of all, I want to thank you very much. I'm a little nervous to start today. I don't know why, but you guys were really nice to work with and friendly. You said you were a friendly class. And so like I don't know what I was going to say, but I want to thank you. Like I just wanted to give you an update. And get a letter of support. Having this is the best committee right off the bat. You're my favorite committee right now.
You start and saying, these journeys didn't start. Accessibility is taking a long time to get where we are, but we're moving.
It's been like once they tapped me on the shoulder for this, it's been a very interesting journey that I've learned a lot about. Like I thought I knew a lot when I worked at VSID and good my clients, but I learned a lot over the last few months. Diane's been very helpful with that with me and she found this magazine actually that's like challenges baseball gave to me there. So but it's been a nice journey and I really appreciate you guys allowing me to speak today about stealing more time than I'm supposed to and having this for me to go back to my committee now and say, hey, look, it's a good start.
I did my mistake. I should have read the resolution. I don't think I did. Let me read the resolution. Resolve that now that we have a mover and a seconder, resolve that the accessibility advisory committee recommends to city council the expenditure of $6,000 for the purchase of an adult game table as part of the proposed barrier-free improvement Sinclair Field to enable the proposed challenge. Make sense? We're all good with that? Everybody's good with that? Thank you very much. Thanks very much for coming.
Thank you for having me, and I would have been even more nervous if I knew $6,000 was something I needed. But well, okay, well, great. So like, but thank you. So I come back through with an update that's saying that we're half done or we're all done. And again, I guess the next takeaway from this is having whoever wants to come down to the field to give us some suggestions. So
Yeah.
into that end.
I'll arrange that, and you need the letter of support probably sooner than later.
Yeah, we have to get hold of it. Soon, but like having that in our back pocket. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Stay back,
Okay.
enjoy the meeting, have yourself coffee, more treats.
Okay, I'll go sit over.
Thank you. We're now moving on to second item of business. I'm just wondering if we should take a little 1-minute break first.
I was gonna, if it's okay, I'll go stand up.
Absolutely, yes, if you're comfortable with that.
I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. Maybe start sweet, maybe for, it's probably like, I'm really gonna focus on the accessibility component of the street, so I'm thinking presentation wise, probably 5 minutes, and we can just open for questions and discussion. That's really looking.
So does anyone want to take a little break before we start?
We can take a break after the discussion as well.
Okay, then Derek.
Thanks, thank you for taking the time and giving us the opportunity to do a quick presentation today regarding the proposed improvements to Queen Street. And again, the focus of our discussion today is really on the accessibility elements of the design. My name is Rick Talvidi. As I mentioned earlier, I'm with AECOM. We're the consulting engineering firm that has been engaged by the city to help them with the design of this project. And there has been a lot of dialogue related to accessibility over the conceptual design phase and the preliminary design phase. And really what we wanted to talk about is what the culmination is, or where we're at now in terms of the status of some of those design elements to improve accessibility on Queen Street. And the first element that I did want to talk about is we all know that the existing paving stone walkways on Queen Street are a challenge because over time they do become undulating and they're not as even and flat as we like them to be. So what is proposed on Queen Street with the upgrades in terms of the design is there's going to be a 1.8 meter wide concrete sidewalk on both sides of the street that are immediately adjacent to the storefronts. So there'll be a continuous and it'll be a straight walkway. The walkway, the alignment of it will be tangential or straight all the way through from Pym Street all the way to Gore Street. So the intent is with that concrete sidewalk, the surface will be much better and more receptive for pedestrian access. And again, it will be straight. So that's probably a very big improvement relative to what's out there today in terms of the paving stones that are out there. Beyond the concrete sidewalk out to the curb line, it'll be the boulevard area. And in that boulevard area, we will be providing some form of paving stones. So between the concrete sidewalk and the roadway itself, there will be paving stones in the boulevard area. This here is one of the parking bays, but beyond the parking bays, there will be a fairly wide boulevard area that will be a paving stone surface of some sort. We're currently looking at alternatives for the specific paving stone type. But one thing that we are focusing on is looking at either a bigger stone compared to what's out there today, or an interlocking stone. So if it is going to be a smaller stone, it'll be an interlocking stone so that they bind together much better and you won't see that heaving like you see on Queen Street now. So those interlocking paving stones that I'm speaking of are currently on Gore Street, is what was used on Gore Street. And the surface is holding up quite well in terms of being a better pedestrian access type of facility. But the principal pathway will be the concrete sidewalk on each side of the street immediately adjacent to the storefronts. Maybe we can move to one of the intersections further to the east here. So the next thing I wanted to speak of is in the intersection areas. Yeah, we gotta go down to one drawing down. Okay, there we go. Here's a good introduction. So at the intersections themselves, in terms of improvements from an accessibility point of view, what we wanted to do is where we could reduce the crossing distance across the roadways. So there's a number of locations where on Queen Street itself, we've eliminated some of the turn lanes. So when you're crossing Queen Street at an intersection, it'll be a shorter distance because some of the turn lanes have been eliminated. And then similarly on the side street. So if you're actually walking along the concrete sidewalk on Queen Street and have to cross one of the side streets, we've again tightened up the area or the distance that you'll have to cross on. So in doing that, we've eliminated some of the turn lanes on the side streets. And as you can see, for those who can, we bumped out the curb so that the crossing distance across the side streets is going to be shorter. So we've eliminated some of these turn lanes. There's only a couple of turn lanes left now within the limits of our project. So just to take a step back, the project, again, the overall project is all the way from Pym Street to Gore Street. The first phase of the project is going to be roughly from Bruce Street to East Street. So due to budget constraints, obviously, and capabilities of a contractor in a single construction season, the project will be phased, and that first phase will be generally from Bruce Street to East Street. And we may not be able to do all of that because it depends on what the construction costs come in at, because there is a fixed budget from council at this point in time that we can use this current year. But generally, it'll be somewhere from Bruce to East. And like I say, so there's been many locations where we've eliminated some of those turn lanes to try and reduce the crossing distance. And then, of course, at each of the crossing points, we will be including tactile warning panels at all of the crossings. So those panels will be installed at a standard offset from the back of the curb, and they will be parallel to the curb. So much like many of the installations now, but those tactile panels will be at each of the crossings at each of the intersections. We have eliminated signals at some, Yes, Lisa? Yeah, by all means, interrupt me as I'm going to if you have questions.
Greg, and this has come up a few times, is the amount of time, I know it's probably more Andy starts off here when you're working with traffic, is the length of time that the walking signal is on. And I walk all the time down, up and down Queen, and I've started counting, and I know I have shorter steps.
Finally get through to everybody.
So at about 10 seconds, I get the warning signal. And what happens is for a lot of folks, they start to panic.
Right.
So like we really, and I've had this argument with Amy before, but we need to have that, like that walking signal longer, especially when we're dealing with, like near the diverse populations, which, you know, I work with on a daily basis.
Right.
Also, like if people are independent, they get scared, like seniors in their walker, they step, probably 2 steps, and then they see the warning sign, and then I see people go back.
Right.
And then they're scared to go. So I think we need to extend that noise longer, especially when you're dealing with more pedestrians, and if we wanna make sure they're safe. And then even, you know, I was watching a dad trying to teach his daughter how to cross. And she was like, we have to go back. Because like the already the morning, you'll not, but I will say, I counted to 10 on all of them, and the warning sign comes up.
So
I think we really need to take a look.
It was great, during where thanks to this with Carol and for Diane and Carol, I was like, Carl was out there myself, we did that one where he made Carol one of the reasons. So these 2 intersections that we're doing there, we're signaling Elgin and Brock will be all new signals there.
Yeah.
So that's one item that we were definitely looking at, the design and too, but timing that. I mean, like Rick said, there are short of it too, so that can help too.
Yeah.
So we definitely will look at that.
One, and then bugging, it's the one at church. Like it is, it's hard, that's a very wide crossing, and it's like, and a lot of people have a lot of issues.
Yeah, no, it's a good point for sure. And like I said, yeah, as Darryl mentioned, certainly, you know, first step is to try to shorten that distance, and then obviously if we can lengthen the signal time for crossing, that would be ideal. So we will certainly make note of that and speak with Andy about it as well. Yes, great. By the way, before you mention, I love your sweater. I'm a Queens grad, that's why.
I have to just finish your graduate school.
Oh, good for you.
Sidewalk, expansion joints, are they gonna be covered over? Because I know that for folks using wheelchairs, there's a bugbear for friends of mine that those can, every time they hit one, they get rattled. It's like,
Yeah, so the expansion joints, there's an Ontario provincial standard that we apply in the design of the sidewalks, and there is a need for expansion joints. I don't know if you've ever seen it in the summertime, but when the weather gets hot, we've seen some sidewalks actually buckle in town and actually pop up like a little mountain. But yeah, so the expansion joints, so there's control joints in the sidewalk and expansion joints. The expansion joints will be constructed in accordance with the standards for Ontario. But they are important just because concrete will expand with temperature. Yeah.
I got a question for you. Is there any way that we can make 2 crosswalks? That every time the snowplow comes by in the winter, there's ice left right in front of the mouth of the crossing. And then trying to get over that with a wheelchair. It is just not able to be done.
So sorry, the ice gets, is this at crossings and intersections you're speaking of?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying the plow goes by and kind of leaves
A ridge.
a ridge there, I guess. Eh? Yeah.
It's a maintenance item, I don't know if that's design it.
No, it's not but it is important. So it is something that in terms we can raise that with Public Works and see if there's anything that can be done to improve the situation, but it is It is a maintenance item, not specifically a
But
design.
you're building this infrastructure, right?
Yeah,
If I don't bring it to this meeting and say, okay, can we look at getting heating pads for the sidewalks, then
Do something.
it's just for you guys to think about, like,
no,
Are you asking for heated sidewalks?
yeah, like.
Awesome, I love the idea.
yeah.
All the Michigan does that.
Oh, Michigan does.
Michigan does. Repeated sidewalk.
All of the sidewalks or just the ramps?
No, all the.
Just to add, to this, I understand sometimes what happens as well when you've got two those meetings, the water drains to those and then it ends up sitting there. We always have a challenge with making sure we don't puddle where we're directing that. The challenge with this project, is that it's a big project, so we're not, while we can try to play with the grades, like the direction where the water is going to sit, it's a challenge here because we're not digging the whole road up. We are really just looking at doing,
Are you okay with that, Eric?
Oh, yeah.
Can we just back up for a minute, back to our sidewalk, cuts? And I think this might be a main question, which is, I remember when Don and I was still there, and I was still there many decades ago. We did a bit of an experiment.
Yeah.
Where they hanged the actual saw cut in the curb, and they eliminated a bunch of them. How did that go?
well, I think it is off.
That's pretty standard now, so
Yeah.
that should be an improvement over most of the sidewalks.
Yeah. This is explain what we did. We need to put in, basically lines, that didn't go all the way through the concrete. We eliminate them. So while we can't eliminate every cut, because we'll need them, we have eliminated the ones that were more aesthetic. So that the.
And they become a bit of a hazard, not a hazard, but uneven there, but on Gore Street, I think Gore Street, look at, we use a lot more small cuts now, that's what we have in here.
Yeah, control of spot.
Yeah, control does, contractor does, yeah. So on Gore, we use a lot more small cuts.
Yeah, so we've reduced
Control.
the number of cuts, but we still have.
Right, so I think it's a 9-foot section, the 9-foot section has the expansion joint, I believe, and then two, at the 3-foot mark have, just the soft.
Soften, the control joint, we call it the control joint.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. So under wheel, it is smooth.
Right.
Now, this is what they did on Bay Street. Is it?
Yes.
We've been doing it for a number of years now, about 4 or 5 years, I think, we've introduced this. And we asked for it on all of our.
I've walked down Bay from beginning to end. Perfect. It is one of the best sidewalks I've ever walked on.
That's amazing to think bring it standard right there.
So just to comment, Bill, what Derek was getting at, the same idea there, so on the ramps at the intersections, on the old standard, is the control law, the same standard, well, on the old standards, and you see one clean, because I swear when I go down there, like two, but old standard, when you come, the gutter's always defined, and almost have that almost 2-inch lip on there, and again, you'll almost like, probably on clean there, but the new standard, Gore, and since Gore, and probably since other, a much smoother transition, no declining, probably less than on some newer approach. And what it actually does too, it kind of brings the gutter up a little bit more, so maybe helps prevent, helps drain both ways too, but much smoother transition than what you do.
We call it a monocore, so it's essentially the sidewalk runs into the
Yeah,
curb,
it's all for you.
so that's all one piece of concrete, there's no connecting concrete that. Need,
Trust that with it, so.
Yeah. it's a lot smoother, it's just.
But there is still a little bit of a grade, right?
Yeah, it's a great,
Okay.
yeah, but there's no other condition, it's much, like, probably the worst thing about clean, happy about the contract, they made it a little sharper. You don't have the property building that, but, yeah, since then, we've been a much, smoother. Kind of thing.
Okay, because on the road, we kind of guide ourselves with the grade, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
the twisties will be there and they will be, right up against the curb as well.
So the other element at the intersections, so again, we are removing the signal at Spring Street. We will continue to have signals within the first phase of this project. The signals will be maintained at Elgin and Brock. And what's proposed obviously is, I think Daryl had mentioned it, but we're gonna redo the signals at both of those intersections. It's gonna be a brand new signalized design. So obviously it will include the accessible pedestrian signal heads with the audible signals at both of those intersections within the project limits. And then if we turn our attention to parking, maybe we can move to another drawing that has a parking bay on it with one of the accessible spaces. We could start here for a minute. Okay, so basically what we're proposing to do is generally incorporate an accessible parking spot in each of the blocks of the project. So within each block of the project, either on the north, and generally speaking, we're trying to alter it from the north side to the south side from block to block. So one block will have it on the north side, the next block will have it on the south side. And again, we would incorporate an accessible parking space, like I say, one per block, generally speaking. And with that, at these accessible parking locations, what we will be doing is there will be, with the accessible space, there will be no curb here, so it'll just be ramped up to the sidewalk. So from the accessible, this will be asphalt in the parking bay itself. This is the 1.8 meter sidewalk. And then there will be a short ramp from parking space up to the sidewalk. So it'll just be a smooth transition from the parking bay up to the sidewalk, but it will be ramped as we talked about. So there will be, in the project limits for the first phase, we have a total of 4 accessible parking spaces planned across the length of the project.
From east to Bruce.
From Bruce to east. East to Bruce. That goes to the place one person travel. Good point. Now the other thing we're doing, and it's currently in the consideration stages on this, so there was a request for consideration of eliminating the curb along the back of the parking bays for the entire length of the parking bay. In other words, the back of the parking bay, the asphalt of the back of the parking bay, which is ramped up to the sidewalk for the entire length of the parking bay, and just not at the accessible space. So we do have some significant challenges in trying to do that on the north side. I think everybody can appreciate that, generally speaking, the topography slopes towards the river. So the north side of Queen Street, the buildings are at a higher elevation than the buildings on the south side of Queen Street. So in order to do that on the north side, we found that the slope on the sidewalk and the boulevard areas would exceed 4% in order to achieve that. So we don't want to exceed 4%. So to do that on the north side is very challenging from a grading point of view. But on the south side of the street, we think we can achieve that for most of the parking bays. And we're currently in discussions with the city about, there's some pros and cons to it. One of the things that if we do that, there's consideration being given to providing bollards in that narrow boulevard area between the back of the parking bay and the sidewalk. So on the south side of the street, we have a boulevard area between the parking bay and the sidewalk of about 0.95 meters, or roughly 3 feet. And what's being considered is possibly putting bollards within that boulevard area to prevent vehicles from, basically going too far beyond the parking bay and possibly getting into the boulevard area or the sidewalk area, sort of a safety consideration. As well, it also helps to delineate the parking bay itself. So particularly in the winter when things are covered with snow, if somebody's pulling in there, we want them to understand where the limit of the parking bay is and not to potentially encroach on the boulevard or sidewalk area. So we're talking about, different elements of that design and whether we can actually incorporate it into the design, but we are certainly looking at it in some detail. So we talked about the narrowing. I think that basically covers all of the elements in terms of accessibility that we've incorporated to try and make it an improved project relative to what's out there for accessibility point of view. So what I'll do is I'll open it up to questions, comments, or discussion.
I got a little bit of question. So this is just the sidewalk. Well, I'll tell you what my concern is.
Sure.
Okay. So it's gonna be one-way traffic. We're gonna have 2 lanes of traffic going one way. You're gonna have parking on one side, parking on the other side. So if you're heading west towards Bruce Street from East Street on Queen, the bike path, you're still putting it in?
Yes, the bike path is on the north side of the street.
Okay, now that's my issue. So, and I don't know if it has something to do with traffic laws or whatever, but why isn't the bike path, for safety reasons, and I'll tell you why after. Why isn't the bike path on the south side rather than the north side? Because when you're driving, let's say the city bus or the Parabus, you're driving down Queen, you're passing all these people on bicycles, and then the bus gotta pull into the bus stop. Or the Parabus has to pull in because the Parabus only has a door on the one side, okay? That's putting this bike rider's life in jeopardy, okay? As it's driving down Queen for all these buses, which is gonna be an inconvenience to the transit drivers also, okay? Driving down Queen, pulling in front of a bike, same with the Parabus, and then having to watch again to pull out again. But if the bike route was on the left-hand side, then the bus could go in no problem, the Parabus can go in no problem.
Understood, yeah. So
What's
so
the reason for that?
the reason that it's primarily on the north side is because it's a continuation of the bike path that's already on the north side of Queen. So east of Pim Street, we currently have a bike path there heading westerly. And to carry that bike path without them having to cross the street and go to the south side of Queen, that continuity is there. Now, I guess to your point, I mean, the reality is there's going to be vehicles, whether it's a bus or just normal traffic, pulling into these parking bays on both sides of the street, right? So we got parking bays on the south, we got parking bays on the north, and really, regardless of whether it's a bus or a normal vehicle or a passenger vehicle, you got to deal with that conflicting movement where you've got the bike path and people pulling into parking bays or pulling out of parking bays. The reason, like I say, primarily it's on the north side of the street is because it's a continuity of the existing bike path that's there on Queen Street and maintaining it on the north side where the bikes are currently going. So you have that conflict regardless of what type of vehicle it is, and would be on both sides of the street is really, and it's been incorporated on the north primarily because they wouldn't have to then cross the street, go to the south side, and then possibly move back to the north side once they get beyond the project limits.
It's probably not much different than a lot of bike lanes in the city, right, where.
Yeah. I think because it's also included within the vote allowance.
Well, you know. Okay, because that's what I was wondering if it was law or whatever, because,
It is, but I don't.
yeah. Because anywhere else in town, yeah, it's on the right hand side, but Queen Street itself is all one-way, both lanes. And it's slower traffic and it's more congested. You know, I was just thinking that we just.
Yeah,
law
and
is
it's-
sometimes for that.
Yeah, we are continuing where
Yeah.
the street is two ways, and then like lane on both sides, so that side of that, right. There is a component. That was detailed design, but it's to reduce.
Right.
For vehicles, to reduce that, so that would be addressed.
How much is bike?
It's 1.5 meters. So the asphalt section of it's 1.1 meters, and then we counting the gutter portion of the curb gutter, which is 0.4, the total width is. So very similar to what we have on Queen Street now, east of Pine, same width as that.
And that works fine. The reason I ask is, first of all, I really like the idea of shortening the clock distance of the intersection. That's really good. But the reason I was asking about the bike lane has to do with the width of the parking spaces on Queen Street. Those are the standard widths, right?
Well, we have just, and again, sorry to interrupt you, Don. I guess the one thing we have done at parking days on the north side is increase the width there to provide a buffer between the parked vehicles and the bike lane. So there, you know, the bike lane design standards incorporate buffers because of people opening car doors. So there is a buffer area incorporated adjacent to the bike lane on the north side of the street with the parking bays. And that's really why our north side boulevard area is only 0.4 meters, where on the south side it's 0.95. So we've lost some of our boulevard width behind the parking bays on the north side because we've incorporated a buffer out in the street for those bikes.
That makes a lot of sense to me, but that's not where I was going. We don't want a situation where people are walking, and they're taking out basically from it's all that. People park, they get out, they're on planning, congratulations, good for that. Here they're getting out of their vehicle, consuming it. And I should probably be talking to everybody else in this room rather than me, but you know, if they're getting out in and a bike. Create a bit more space for them, so. Carol, point closes, Carol, and, but I think if we're getting some further separation between the vehicle and where cars are moving. You know, if you're gonna get hit, you can get hit by a bike rather than get hit by a car. I could see that with home. No, that's a good point.
I'm just worried that the bikes are gonna get cut off from the buses and the parallels.
Yeah, and that will happen.
Yeah.
And the drivers have to learn to let before they open it.
You can't see what's on back from the other zone, putting one on one side and one on the other side, I think the flexibility where the person's on the driver's side will not be the side. Yeah. They get on the driver's side, they only parking lot, so I never hope if they get on, you know, they have.
But you're right, that bike lane does provide, I mean, first of all, the lane is wider to begin with on the north side because of what I said, because there's a buffer built in relative to the bike lane, but then the bike lane itself provides a further buffer. If you're getting out on that side. No, it's a good point.
Derek, go ahead.
Can I make it a record here? I want everybody in this room to hear this because it is really important to me. On Northern Avenue, we put the green lines for the bus stop. If we don't need them in the zoo, let's not have them ever get those green.
feet.
Green feet.
I think that's exactly what,
Yeah,
it's generally what the idea with that is to draw attention to a conflict zone. Where the potential of the bus cross the bike lane. Why is it that you don't have them?
because it gets too confusing for a wheelchair person. If there's a construction, where do we go? So with that, you're confusing a wheelchair person because they see the bike wheels on the green paint, figuring that we can in wheelchairs, we can go on those green strips.
I guess the question is, I understand what they were there for, are we continuing the process?
No.
Did I didn't bother the Dirk was saying as a result of construction and, you know, people were uncertain whether that was for traffic or they could go there.
Yeah, so the green paint is part of the heavy traffic act, like it is, it's the requirement. Whether we do it in the city or not, it is elsewhere in Ontario, people will use it. It's to draw attention to the cycling and so that vehicles will be in. We generally don't do them, in the city. That one was a construction design by that we tried it. In this specific project, the person try to, point to a project going is to put the gas line. You'll notice when the blanking and or front of the intersection, they turn to gas. At major driveways, we tend to dash. So I think that's probably what we do on this project. Potentially where there's a bus stop or when it's coming up in front of you. Put in a dash. That's something that
Oh, yeah, we have.
I'm sorry I had to bring that. But
No,
your attention.
That's what it's about, yeah.
Any other questions?
Oh, you have a question?
Well, and one is, the easy question is, this project starting construction? Okay, thank you for
provided council.
providing council for, that's all, that's all we're gonna continue.
So we're hoping for the tender at the end of March. Or like maybe at the mini council meeting, we are going to work. It will depend on pricing. Yeah, so there's no guarantee, but our plan is to bring it.
The direction we get all in our, yes, we're building it.
That's like I said, yeah.
That's why, you know, it's surprised me.
The other part where it's. You guys, like, how's our street furniture coming? Do we have street furniture here?
That's a good question, Don. Actually, it's currently, correct me if I'm wrong, it's currently sitting with the planning department. Peter's still on the, I'm not sure, but it's currently sitting with the planning department to finalize the actual street furnishings that will be used or purchased for this product.
We have a standard. You wear. The benches.
The ones we use on base.
So Bay Street, Gore Street, and Bruce have it. It's been brought up that the benches are maybe not meeting all the requirements, so planning is reviewing to see whether they find different.
The issue that we have heard.
That's what we heard. So we're looking at it, but it's one of those that's not, it becomes a requirement because we told them you couldn't get here. And now we're getting these things on them. So our staff is staying on it. They'll make a decision whether it can be.
We could have those benches on.
Peter, is there any other information on the street furniture that you'd like to add?
No, I think and sorry, it's hard. Certain people I can hear really well, and then others I can't. And it doesn't seem to matter where you're sitting. It's kind of weird. In any event, yeah, I think what I did here is we are looking at it. We are looking probably at something similar to what you see on Bay and Bruce. But the backrests there aren't like, they're not really backrests. If you actually try to sit on them, the backrests are quite a ways, a little bit too far back. So we might try to find something better in terms of a backrest. And then we are cognizant of having handles on both. Like basically, if you can sit two people there should be three sort of armrests, if you will, so that people can use them to get down and get back up again. So we are looking at that, and we will certainly bring Diane into the loop as part of that.
Thanks, Peter, that's great. Other questions?
So when this is under construction, what are you gonna do about people being able to access wherever they need to go?
So there's no question it'll be very challenging during portions of road for sections. So I mean, generally speaking, we're gonna try and restrict the contractor to areas at a time. In other words, don't tear up the entire length of the project at one time. Let's try and focus on one area, try and get it done. And with that, you know, let's say it's on a block by block basis in rough terms. They would be working on one side of the street first, get it, you know, get the sidewalks in and walkways in, and then working on the opposite side. So there will always be one side of the street open to pedestrian activity and vehicular traffic. And then it would flip over to the other side. So it'll be phased on a block by block basis. There will you know, there will be requirements in the contract that they have to maintain pedestrian access through the construction zone. But as we all know, it's not going to be great. It will be a challenge at times, specifically in certain areas, but, yeah, there will be every effort made to try and maintain, pedestrian and vehicle access through the duration of the program.
The benefit on Queen Street project is comparable to what we did on North Street. North Street kind of got from building to building, and it was very difficult. Why that's, at least on Queen, for the most part, we're doing surface work, right? There's some underground work, but like street lighting, most part. So that's gonna be, make things a little bit easier, but like I said, still gonna be a challenge. We're gonna build temporary pathways and that side, we work on one side and then the other, you know, hopefully we can stage that. But it's gonna be a challenge, yeah.
So they need the existing tree.
No trees up.
But there will be all new trees.
Only sorry,
Yeah.
new trees.
Yeah, all new trees. There will be a lot of new trees on the street. Yes. And new trees.
Yeah.
And new trees.
Is it the standard, the city standard streetlight that we're?
Yeah, not decorative. We're not putting in decorative lighting. It's just gonna be in standard.
But they're gonna have, yeah.
Lots of lights.
Lots of plugs.
Those banner and speakers going on. So we've already all that. Yeah, boy, that's already, it's,
Right,
that's the-
And crosswalks, you're gonna have them painted. Zebra
Yeah.
stripes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other questions?
I'm really happy with that.
Anyway, so.
Yeah, I can hardly wait.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Any questions? Anyone? Well, Rick, Daryl, thanks very, very much for coming. This is great. I think it's a really good example. I think that, you know, we can make progress. I think you guys are making progress. I think the staff is making progress. I think the accessibility committee is making progress. We're getting there. Yeah, this is like really exciting. I'm really good.
Are you gonna have like a street party once it's all done?
Oh, we're from. We're from. Thank you very much.
I'm really good at this.
That's mine. You want?
We can take a 5-minute break. Let's take 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Pause the recording. Yeah, about anything.
What time are we, I think we can touch this next year, and I think figure out 4 o'clock time frame.
Yeah.
We're good, old business. I mean, say, by the way, those were 2 really good presentations. I think that was just excellent, thank you very much. We're up to the first item under old business, 7.1 curb cut sidewalk repairs for accessibility. And Diane, I didn't know that, are those repairs or are those new deferred sidewalks at this point?
No, they're not new. They are old curbs that have been in place for a number of years. And we've been replacing them on a priority basis. And when I identified that, you know, this is an area in my neighborhood that has not curb cut, we need a curb cut there.
Okay, so they are new.
They are new,
They
yes,
are
they're not replaced,
I mean,
they come with twisties, yes,
got it.
yes.
Okay,
that's right.
can I give you an example?
Sure.
I got on the phone to Diane, and I said to Diane, said, this one, crosswalk on the 90 needs to be fixed. We closed it off, because there's a new building going up. So they were kind enough to, get tiny paving out there. We closed it off because there used to be a new, and then an island, and then people would have to cross over. So what we did, we took that right out, we straightened it all out. Now I noticed after we were done, that there needs to be more work done on that same sidewalk, but in different areas. So that's what
Was that the entrance that just went zooming into the one thing right there?
yeah,
Princess
Princess Auto, that's the story. Thank you, yeah.
That we didn't pay for, the city did that because that was certainly a danger concern.
yes, but I brought it to your attention and things went through that way.
Yes,
So everybody don't ever be afraid to bring a neighborhood sidewalk issue to Diane, because Diane will try her hardest to get it looked at.
thanks, Derek. So please, when you're out and about, and especially if it's somewhere in your neighborhood that you use frequently, that requires a curb cut or a sidewalk repair, let me know. Last year in 2023, we did 12 curb cuts. And they were on Copernicus, Hardwood Street, Bryan, Illinois, another one on Copernicus, Bellevue, Oakwood, Tree Lawn, Chambers, Grosvenor, Rushmere, and North Street. So those were repaired last year with our $10,000 allotment. So send me anything.
Okay.
Will they continue using the plastic ones?
No. When they're being replaced, they will use the metal twisties. That's the twisties you're referring to, right?
Mhm.
Yes, that has become the preferred. There is the odd case where in front of the new Legion building, I don't know what kind of a twisty they've got there. But I noticed their sidewalk, because it was done by the building owner, they did the sidewalk the way they do sidewalks. They didn't do it according to our sidewalk standard.
Oh,
That
lovely.
may be the case as well for curb cuts, when it's a contractor that's doing other work because there's work in the area. We try to catch those, but sometimes they end up being missed.
Technically, though. Being as a retired person who has no authority whatsoever to do anything. The city standard applies to all work done on city property. So we do have an argument to go back and say, excuse me, you did that wrong.
Well, then. Go ahead.
Nope, go ahead, Carl.
Corner of McNabb, Pine, Tim Hortons Corner. So they did that, the last summer, or the summer before, I can't remember,
2 summers ago.
2 summers ago. And I think that it was that they were supposed to put tactile. But they were drawing the lines.
Which hasn't been in place for about 20 years.
So I asked them, while they were doing it, why they're doing that? And they're really good with me, they come and they walk me across the street, and everything, but when I get to this, and they're doing this, they told me it's because that's what their boss told them to do. So why is it still like that then?
Well,
I'll bring it forward again.
yeah. And if I was mistaken on the city's part, well, we have the resources.
But you only have so long to get the contract to do it right? Now, it's been what, 2 years now?
It's been 2 years.
Yeah.
I will bring it forward again.
Anything else on Kirkland? Sidewalks generally? This is how these things get done, but saying there's a problem, but
Okay, corner of, second line, turning into Walmart, where Michael's is.
yeah.
The sidewalk
Over
is still,
corner.
yeah, sidewalk's still out in the road. When are they gonna fix that?
Sidewalk is still up in the road.
Yeah, so you got second line. And you got the road going into Walmart. Michael's is here.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you walk up the sidewalk beside Michael's, you're heading towards second line. When you get to the corner, you wanna go down second line towards, let's say Humane Society, okay? If you go this way, it's towards the police station. So when you get to that corner, it's curved, right? So the cars can drive in, right? So you got the sidewalk that goes like this, but if the sidewalk's not following the curve, the sidewalk is actually going out into the road and down. So you've got the sidewalk like this, but yet the curve is like this. So when you count on your vision to walk, you're following the sidewalk, and all of a sudden, standing in the middle of the road here, you're not even on the sidewalk because the curb is over here, but yet the cement for the sidewalk goes out here. So the cars are coming like this, okay? And you think you're standing on the sidewalk because you are standing on the sidewalk. It's just the curb is behind the sidewalk instead of in front of the sidewalk.
I'll take a look
Yeah,
at
that's
that.
what we.
Yeah.
It is bizarre. It is. Oh, yeah, because this is how I first, few years back, I followed the sidewalk, so my vision was getting bad, but I could still see better, right? So I'm following the sidewalk and I'm standing there. And cars are wanting to come around the corner and thinking, well, why are they getting mad at me? It's because the sidewalk is in the road. It's not. Yeah,
Obviously, something uselessly wrong when they put that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Thank you, Carol. I don't pedestrian move around.
mhm,
So those who do this.
Do you have a
Don't, yeah, don't wait
Yeah.
mhm.
for a meeting and stuff, and stuff.
Okay,
It goes on the list. And we can get stuff done.
Okay. Here, we go updates.
Yes. So the next part on that is the barrier-free parking violation update. There were no barrier-free parking tickets issued in November or December. There was one in January, and so far there's 2 in February. I have a meeting with, transit parking and, Norfolk to talk about their enforcement of the parking, because it's not working. I've also had a conversation with Nicole very recently about enforcing the barrier-free parking and how, there are people that are, I guess they're deputized, I'm not sure if that's the correct word, to issue accessible parking permits or parking tickets, I should say, for any parking infractions. And just today, it occurred to me that part of there's 2 issues with the barrier-free parking. One is abuse of the accessible parking, stalls themselves, that people are parking there without having an accessible parking permit. And that the other issue is that people are parking on top of the access aisle in between the parking spaces. And, I assumed there was something built into bylaws about ticketing someone that's parked on the access file, but I don't think there's actually, I don't think there is a bylaw in place for that. So, yes, yep, end of story, I agree. So I asked the question today and I'm waiting for a response on that. So, that may help to solve some of the issues as well.
Right, I found like here again, I don't know how many. Parking spots there are actually, but again, when we came, week or so ago. We had to park way out on the other end. Totally full, so again, I can't tell, so I got parked, like, let's walk across and see how many, only 2 had permits.
Right.
And they were all, and that is. I should have barked here, well, somebody that drives, like, this, you drive it. Anyway, they're saying that there's a spot in between, so you can get your wheelchair out or whatever, and people are parking in those. Are we allowed to park in those or not? Because sometimes,
100% no.
okay, so, because here, it's like all the cars are. And I think there's.
Yeah, I think there's quite a bit of misunderstanding on that. The signs are gonna be changed to having a no parking, the P with the circle and the line.
Okay,
through it.
because I know those confused and a few other people as well.
Yeah, so that's gonna be changed. It should be much clearer.
And do they need so many
you need,
compared to?
you need a parking aisle on at least one side of each parking space.
Okay,
So
so,
for us here, we have parking space, access aisle, parking
Right,
space, access
right.
aisle. You can have 2 parking spaces abutted, but then you need an access aisle on each side. And then you may
Okay,
have
so-
2 more parking spaces and then access aisle on the other side.
okay, so explain it to her too. Again, we're,
Yeah,
like every time we turn around, there's new signage, new colors, new whatever, and we're going. You know,
I was trying to suggest, and I hate to say it, but maybe we should review our parking stand. Because, you know, as Diana said, there's some confusion. And it may just be on the size of the space.
exactly, like,
I hate to even bring that up, but that may be a solution.
Well, and it's not for accessible parking, but even the family parking spaces, who's to say who can park there, who doesn't, or the parking spaces that are side for online pickup. And I know it's not an there's no enforcement that
for grocery pickup and for, persons who are family or pregnant. Sorry, I don't have the correct term for it, expectant parent. Those are courtesy, there's no enforcement.
but I was going to say too, I forgot what I was going to say. No. I did, I forgot. Oh, okay, you were saying about, a couple of meetings ago, we had said, there's only one ticket that was out. Is there an outfit that's hired to do this, and did they only work 9 to 5? Is that part of the problem?
That is part of the problem, not that they work 9 to 5, but Norpro has been awarded a contract to issue parking permits
Okay.
on the city's behalf.
And did they say, okay, we check John Rhodes at, like, I'm not saying they have to check every night, but say, 5 times a month, and they got it on their chart, that this one, random.
Yeah, I think it's
Like, if they have to account for where they've been.
No, and I think that may be part of the problem. And the other part of the problem in their defense is that if they're on a call apprehending a shoplifter, they can't just drop it and, you can call and you can ask for them to come to the John Rhodes, to go to the GFL, to any of the city facilities. But if they are in the middle of and that can't be fraud.
I thought it would be a separate thing where they just go around and do parking when the parking made your
It's
response.
just an additional thing that they do
Yeah.
in their
Okay.
own right.
Because, yeah, there's so much need elsewhere, I get that, they, yeah.
Yeah, so that's, we're gonna review that, I have a meeting with Nicole.
I'd like to get a letter put out and put it in their windshield.
Yeah.
Warning,
Yeah,
we are watching you.
that might
But
be
again,
effective as
you're
well.
in trouble.
Are we almost done with the agenda? Cause
We are.
Okay. I have to tell you guys something, everybody in this community, or everybody in this room. Just so you know, that I have to tell you about Searchmont Resort. This nice lady sitting by Dawn has gotten a group of skiers. People with disabilities out every weekend to do the ski.
Yeah.
We now have 2 wheelchair washrooms in the facility,
Additional ones.
additional room. There's also an additional door that opens electronically. And we have a heated patio,
That has level access.
level access. So anybody gets to go out to search for, please go check it out. Because I tell you, this one, myself, Harold.
Yeah.
You know, we have all used the facility. So like,
It's great.
just because you guys, some days might run into a wall and say, okay, what are we doing here today? They probably would say, we're making a difference. Okay, we're making a difference. They will come to the city and say, we need money to do this. The management and the group, Skiability, No Limits, went to the managers, said, we need this, and the managers made it happen. So realize that when you're a volunteer in this room, you give an idea. Just think of search on. This, since 2010, Diana's been doing search warrant. No Limits. So she's been an awesome volunteer, making sure that everyone gets out of the hill. Paramount's from ages. So if any of the counselors have a chance to go to search warrant, please go to search warrant and check it out.
And that service, announcement was brought to you by Eric.
And we'd like to thank Eric and Diane.
Got that? Okay, that's just about ends our meeting. Can we have a motion for adjournment?
Yes, we can.
Derek, and seconded by Terry. Thank you very, very much, everybody. I will not see you next month because I will become 6 months warmer, hopefully. But I will see you in 2 months.
It's not from the chair.
You're in the chair, you're gonna be the chairperson, Derek.
I'm the chair next month, Dad.
Yeah.